In the far reaches of the desert, where the sun burned so hot that even the winds seemed afraid to move, Rango wandered with no clear destination. The air shimmered with heat. The dunes stretched endlessly in every direction, and every step felt heavier than the last. Then, far ahead, something unusual broke the perfection of the horizon. A shape that didn't belong in this endless wasteland. At first it looked like a shadow, but as he moved closer, it began to take form. A circle of stones, standing in defiance of the scorching sun, an old well, alone, silent, and somehow watching him. His instincts told him to turn away, yet his feet carried him closer. The well stood ancient, its stones weathered by an age older than the desert itself. Despite the unbearable heat, moisture darkened the edges of the stone as though it had been raining. But here no rain had fallen in decades. A faint mist curled from the open mouth, too faint to be natural, carrying with it an air so cold it made the back of his neck prickle. The longer Rango stared at it, the more it felt like the well was staring back. There was no sound in the desert, no birds, no wind, only this strange, unnatural silence. And in that stillness, he felt the first stirrings of dread deep in his chest. Leaning over the edge, he peered into the darkness. His eyes took a moment to adjust, and then he saw at black water, still and deep far below. A single droplet fell from somewhere unseen and struck the surface with a soft, hollow splash. Another droplet followed. The rhythm was unnatural, too slow, like the beating of a tired heart. Each sound echoed longer than it should have, as if the well itself was breathing. He felt a strange pull in his mind, an urge to see more, to lean just a little farther over the edge. Without warning, the surface of the water stirred. A ripple spread outward from the center, and then a pale shape broke through a hand. Thin, bony, skin waterlogged and almost translucent. Long black hair strands floated up with it, clinging to the wrist like seaweed. The fingers curled slowly, like something testing the air for the first time in centuries. It did not belong here. It did not belong anywhere under the sun, and yet it was rising toward him. A whisper slid into his mind before he could move away. At first it was soft, like the rustle of silk, but then it sharpened, slicing through his thoughts. It spoke without words, yet he understood. It was calling him, not with kindness, but with hunger. His ears rang as the sound grew louder inside his skull. The mist from the well thickened, and from it he saw thin strands of black hair slithering toward his feet, reaching like living things. From the depths of the well, she rose, dripping water onto the sand, her head tilted unnaturally, hair hiding her face entirely. Every movement seemed wrong, like her body was bending in ways it shouldn't. As she climbed out, the desert heat felt like it dropped to freezing, his breath becoming visible in the air. She stopped, tilting her head toward him, and in the small gap between strands of hair, he saw them to pale eyes, empty, yet full of the promise of something far worse than death. The sand beneath his feet trembled as a deep crack split the ground. From it poured black water, bubbling and spreading across the desert floor. It was cold, bitterly cold, and the sound it made was not like water, it was like the sighing of something ancient and restless. She stepped forward, and every place her feet touched, the ground split wider, more water gushing out. Rango stepped back, but no matter how far he moved, she was still just a few steps away. He turned and ran, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his teeth. Sand sprayed beneath his feet as he scrambled up one dune and slid down the next. But no matter how far he went, whenever he glanced over his shoulder, she was closer. Sometimes she wasn't even moving, just standing there. Yet somehow the distance between them was gone. Her shape flickered, appearing in places she couldn't possibly reach in time, bending the very idea of space. As he ran, the sand beneath him softened and sank. His feet plunged into icy water where moments before there had been nothing but dry dunes. The desert around him was dissolving into a black ocean, the horizon melting into a dark, endless expanse. Waves began to form where there had never been wind. The sky above twisted, and the sun vanished behind a wall of churning clouds. He was no longer running on land, he was wading through a nightmare. The surface of the water rippled, and shapes began to form beneath it. Dozens of faces, pale and distorted, pressed upward as if straining to break free. Some had mouths frozen in eternal screams. Others stared with wide, dead eyes. Among them, her face appeared again and again, each one slightly different, each one watching him. It didn't matter where he looked, every reflection was hers. Something cold brushed against his leg, then another. In seconds, multiple hands broke the surface and wrapped around his ankles. They were impossibly strong, dragging him down into the freezing dark. He kicked and thrashed, but more hands emerged, pale and endless, pulling him deeper. Above him, the sky shrank into a small, unreachable circle of light. As the world darkened, a faint flicker appeared in the water ahead of him. An old videotape, spinning slowly in the current. Its label was worn away, but the faint glow it emitted lit the water in an eerie pale green. He didn't know why, but the sight of it filled him with the same dread as the well. Hair-like strands drifted around it, curling and uncurling like the legs of some deep-sea creature. He looked up and saw the impossible. The surface of the water above him shimmered and began to bend, the moon above melting into liquid silver. It dripped down in slow motion, merging with the black depths around him. There was no up, no down, only an endless drowning. His chest burned, his body screamed for air. He opened his mouth, but the only thing that entered was icy water. The whisper returned, now a scream that filled his skull with pain. From the shadows ahead, her face appeared inches away, hair floating, like ink in water. Her eyes locked on his, and for a moment, everything else faded. When his eyes opened again, he was standing in the desert. The well was before him, but now water poured from its mouth, flooding the sand around it. The sky was dark, thick with swirling black clouds, and from somewhere deep below, the sound of dripping began again, steady and patient, as if waiting for him to come closer once more.